Now we start this hour with U.S. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency has announced that it will stop collecting tariffs imposed under President Donald Trump's 2025 actions effective on February 24th. This move comes after a Supreme Court ruling declared these tariffs illegal. Countries including India, China, and Bangladesh which have been paying these tariffs will no longer be required to do so. However, the U.S. will still be implementing a 15% tariff under a different legal authority. The decision is expected to provide relief to many countries, but the government has yet to clarify if importers will receive refunds for payments made since last year. The Customs Agency has said additional guidance will be provided as needed. Now we welcome Mr. Sharad Kohli. He's a senior economist, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Mr. Kohli, for joining us. Good to see you. Now, as we know, President Trump has put 15% more, first 10% and then 15%. What is he using? Which rule is he referring to make this legitimate?
Well, greetings, Suma, to you and NewsX World viewers. He's using Section 122, which gives President powers, to levy tariffs for 150 days. And before that, he has to take congressional approval. So this is a temporary one, first of all. He first levied 10%, and I was always wondering, why did he use the full 15% powers provided under 122? And lo and behold, the very evening he said, okay, I'm revising it to 15%. So it's now 15%. But what's important to note here, Suma, is there is a lot of confusion around the world because he signed multiplicity of deals with the countries. So are all deals, as per the Supreme Court ruling, 170-page ruling, which is come, Suma, as per that ruling, all the deals become infructuous, which means they do not hold any sanctity as of today. Whereas when he's asked about, for example, he was asked about India deal as an example, he said, no, the deal still holds good. So what is he referring to? I mean, is there going to be an overlap? Definitely not, because the older tariffs are illegal. So technically what happens is, I'll take, for example, China. So if China was under the 34% category, then it comes down to 15% now. Now also there's another confusion. For example, on India, before this whole tariff policy came in April 2025, the reciprocal tariff policy, India was subject to average base tariff of 3.5%. So is he going to levy these 15% over and above 3.5%? Or is it going to be only 15%? So that's the confusion. With regard to the refund, I think the process, to my understanding, should be that each import trading house or importing company who's importing goods from across the world will have to file legal suits or claims for refund, because the tariff has been held illegal retrospectively. I don't think Supreme Court has said that from today this is going to be illegal. To my understanding, these tariffs are illegal from ab initio, from the beginning itself. So I think, a clarity has to emerge as to what is going to be happening to $175 billion of tariff collected over all these months. So whether they'll be refunded, will the import trading houses, importing companies be filing for refunds directly to the IRS or customs, or will they be going in for legal suits, lawsuits, which would mean a very complicated legal situation? Having said that, Suma, I would also like to add here that President Trump is still exploring more options, because 15% is far less than his average expectations, because in most of the countries, it was 18%, 19%, 20%, 24%, 34%. 15% falls short of his expectations, I would say. So he's got Section 338 of the U.S. Trade Act 1974, which authorizes him to collect tariffs subject to investigation if he's able to prove that countries were being unfair to him and there was discriminatory policies being followed by the countries upon him. So all this is subject to investigation. If the investigation concludes to say, yes, there was an unfair trade practice, then of course this tariff will hold. Otherwise, that tariff is not going to hold. So all in all, if you ask me, it's work in progress, first of all, Suma. This is not the end of it, because knowing President Trump very well now for so many years now, he's not going to sit back and just accept his defeat by the Supreme Court. He said all sorts of things for the Supreme Court judges. We all know that. He used
Yes.
Very, very unparliamentary language as well for the Supreme Court judges. So he's not going to sit at rest, and we can expect a lot more to be happening. For now, yes, 150 days, 15% seems to be the norm across the world, but it all seems too simple to accept, Asuma.
Yes. And how could this ruling influence future U.S. trade policy and stability of global trade relationships with U.S., especially, we know that U.S. leader President Trump is going to be holding bilateral with President Xi soon in China. Do you think that President Xi will have upper hand here in the next upcoming bilaterals? What cards would President Trump have to play? Do you think we will see this tit for tat tariffs, which went above 100% last year, between them?
The countries around the world, Asuma, as I said, are as much confused as you and me are.
Yes.
I think people are in wait and watch mode. Like, for example, I talk of India. There was a delegation supposed to be going from India to the United States to finalize the trade deal. That delegation has been kept on hold. European Union announced that we are not going to go ahead with the trade deal entered with the US before. So, and same goes for China. I think the meeting between President Trump and President Xi Jinping, it may be happening for other reasons, other strategic reasons, but at least for settling the tariffs, I think things need to be, wait and watch right now, because you can't go ahead with so much of uncertainty being there on the tariff policy. So his tariff policies, his global economic policies do all need a reset now. He will first have to be clear, is he happy with 15%? Then, very important point, Asuma, this 15% holds good only for 5 months. If he doesn't get congressional approval for 15%, even the 15% will have to go. So which means that a long-term view or a long-term policy making on bilateral trade with America at this point of time is almost impossible. So this will render a lot of uncertainty to the trade market, to the stock markets, to the commodity markets. I think this is going to bring a lot of uncertainty, a lot of confusion, a lot of ifs and buts. Those five, what happens before 5 months, what happens after 5 months, whether the Congress, he gets a majority vote in the Congress to get these tariffs approved. If he doesn't, even these are gone, then will he go for Section 338? Will he go for Section 301, which he's done on China, on Brazil? So it's all very complicated. The US Trade Act does provide certain escape routes to President Trump to levy some more tariffs. But how far do they hold? Because they're all subject to investigation, and investigation has to be completed within 12 months in certain cases. Like for 301, requires investigation to be completed within 12 months. So there are a lot of ifs and buts, a lot of conditions, I would say, which go along with this policy. So any policy, to sum it all up, Asuma, any policy which does not give you stability from a long-term perspective, especially when it's bilateral relationship, especially when it's trade relationship, does create a lot of uncertainty. And I think America's, I would say, position as far as the rest of the world is concerned now is not looking very good to me.
Yes, and lastly, looking at markets, initially we saw markets reacting positively. How is it looking right now? We might have lost connection with Mr. Kohli over here, but I would like to thank Mr. Kohli for joining us today and sharing that insight with us on NewsX World. Now we move on to Venezuela. In Venezuela, hopes for freedom have